If you've never made Korean rice balls before, then I'm gonna show you how easy and delicious they are. Our first Korean rice ball is filled with tuna, mayo, and kimchi. Trust me, this is an awesome flavor combo. In a bowl, I'm mixing some tuna, chopped kimchi, and just a touch of Japanese mayo. Oh, what's that? Too much mayo? Obviously, you've never had Japanese mayo before. It's so delicious, and as someone who has a deep hatred in his heart for American mayo, it's all love for the Japanese stuff. Try it yourself and I know you'll agree. I've got links to my favorite Japanese mayo in the description box below. Once it's mixed up, I add in some green onions and sesame seeds and give it a final mix. This stuff is red heroin and it is so good. Now let's talk rice for a minute. I'm using short grain Japanese rice. Japanese rice has a softer texture and is starchier and stickier than its long grain cousin. That's important because you want the rice ball to hold its shape. If you've ever tried to make rice balls with long grain rice, you'll know that it just never really holds its shape. So get good Japanese rice to make perfect rice balls. I add some sesame oil, salt, and sesame seeds to the rice and mix it together gently. We don't want to mash the rice, we just want each grain to be coated in oil and salt. Take a small handful of rice and flatten it in your palm. Next, add some of the tuna kimchi mix, then gently fold the rice around the tuna into a ball shape. You want to make sure to give it a good squeeze at this point to keep the ball together. I've got some Korean seasoned seaweed. This stuff is addictive and is like the finest crack cocaine of the ocean.
Everybody wants to be cool, but doing it with
Korean seaweed
isn't just
delicious.
It could be
Fatally delicious. I crush a few packs of it in a bowl and drop my rice into it, making sure to get it covered in that salty seaweedy goodness. Roll out the rest of your rice balls and let's roll on over to the next one. The next Korean rice ball is my personal favorite, bacon M Kimchi, which is more like country ham, but if you have access to that delicious streaky variety, that works just as well. I fry the bacon until it starts to render its fat and brown slightly, then I add in some chopped kimchi along with some kimchi juice and I cook it until most of the moisture has evaporated. Now I just throw it in a large mixing bowl along with some white rice, and I'm adding in some more of those toasted sesame seeds and green onions. I mix it all together, then I shape it into balls. Now when you're making these, you really want to press on them firmly because they will fall apart on you. Crank out the rest and it's on to the next rice ball. This is the bulgogi-style Korean rice ball. For the filling, I'm using some minced pork, but you can use beef or chicken if you'd like. I add in some soy sauce, sesame oil, sugar, minced garlic, and minced ginger. I mix it together and I let it sit for about 20 minutes. Now in a pan, I cook some finely minced carrots until they're slightly softened, and then I add in some finely minced onions. Once the onions have softened as well, I add in the meat and I cook it until it's completely done. Next, I throw into a bowl with some rice, top it with those sesame seeds and green onions, and then I mix it all together. I roll it out into balls, again making sure to press firmly, and now I'm moving on to my final Korean rice ball. This is sort of a sushi rice ball hybrid that's wrapped in a thin egg omelet. I start by cooking some finely minced carrots in a bit of sesame oil, then I add in some minced garlic, and when the carrots have softened, I throw in some finely sliced spinach. I cook it until the spinach has wilted down, then I add in some salt and sesame seeds and I mix it all with some white rice. Then I shape them into these chunky oval-shaped rice balls. In a bowl, I've got some eggs and I'm whisking them with some soy sauce and sugar. I'm gonna use these to cook up some little eggy blankets for our naked rice logs. I'm also cutting some nori seaweed into long, thin strips. I'll need 1 strip per rice log. In a hot pan, I add in a strip of seaweed, then I pour some of my egg omelet mix. Now, I didn't account for the curvature of my pan, so this happened. And apparently that's the sound I make when something goes disappointingly wrong. So on the second try, I tried cooking it closer to the edge of the pan and I just made a mess. After a bit of experimentation, I figured out the best way to make sure that the egg doesn't run all over the place. First, I get my pan hot, then I lay a strip of seaweed in the center. Then I add just a little bit of my egg. Now before it runs down towards the side of my pan, I take my spoon and I press it against the surface of the egg, and because of that surface tension, I have a little bit of control over where the egg goes. So using the back of the spoon, kind of like a paintbrush, I start to paint the egg across the seaweed and make a rectangle with it. When you're making this at home, you want to make sure that you use part of the egg mixture that has more yolk in it and less of the egg white. Because the egg yolk is more watery than the egg white, it'll be easier to manipulate it where you need it to be. Now don't worry if you don't get it on your first try. I certainly didn't. This is definitely one of those things where you're gonna mess up the first few times until you get the hang of it. Once I paint the egg onto the pan, I add in my rice log to one end of the egg, then I slowly roll it up. Next, I let it sit on the seam for a few seconds so that it seals itself, and then I remove it from the pan. Now, isn't that a beaut? Continue painting out your little egg blankets and rolling your rice logs in them, and now we can go ahead and pack this whole thing up. I'm using a fancy Japanese bento box, but a large cookie tin or a Tupperware container would work just as well. As I was trying to get my rice balls into the bento box, it kind of felt like I was playing Tetris, just trying to figure out how to fit them all in there. Now, as you can see, I couldn't fit all of them inside, so I just ate the leftover. Hey, chefs deserve the first bite, right? Trust me, kimchi, mayo, and tuna make an amazing combination. Now I just have to pack up my lunchbox, and I'm using a furoshiki and tying it up the traditional Japanese way. And now we have an amazing lunchbox that we can take to school, work, or out on a picnic. Now, let's try it out.
Hi. Can I open? Yes. Oh, you have like a present. Okay, let's see what's inside. Da-dang. Ooh. It looks like a feast. 4 different kinds. Wow, it's very colorful too. I want kimchi tuna. Ta-da! It's very crispy inside. This is from kimchi. Oh, and not only kimchi, you put some green onion too. Nice spice. I don't think I've ever tried kimchi and mayo and tuna. That's pretty good. Whoa. Itadakimasu. The first one was kind of spicy and savory. This one is kind of sweet and savory. Again, it's really great combination with meat and then vegetable. Oh, I love it. It's bulgogi, yeah. Kimchi bacon. Oh. Okay. Ooh. Classic. This is a classic. I mean, who can say no to bacon and kimchi combined together, right? It's so good. Oh. What does it look like to you? Small wrestler? Yes, I think so. It looks like a small wrestler. Cheers. Oh, it's so nice and light. This is something that you can eat like 10 or 20. No problem. And the egg outside is so fluffy. Oh. Thanks for watching, and make sure to visit our website for full recipe. 감사합니다.